Hey everyone, I'm Riddhi Datta, a software engineer with around 7 years of experience who is currently riding the AI wave and thinking whether he can make the show on time. So without any further ado, let's get started with this video where I am going to talk about how I actually use AI at work. This will give you a nice sneak peek into how AI is currently affecting our daily software engineer lives, especially for college students and freshers who are new to this industry, who are getting, are losing their sleep thinking that whether AI will take their jobs away or not. I think this is a nice video to spend your time on so that you can actually understand what's going through. And I'm currently working in one of the big tech companies which is heavily investing in AI. That will also give you some sneak peek and insights into what's happening in the current AI industry. So let's get started. So what I've done is I've created around 5 points to talk about in this video so that I can make this video very crisp and I can dish out the maximum information possible within this given period of time. First thing that I'm going to talk about is the bug workflow. Okay, so since I've mostly worked for big techs, right, and I'm sure that you guys dream to be in one of those big techs somewhere down the line. So I think you need to understand one thing is, generally in big tech, it's very rare that you get to start writing code from scratch. Most of the code is already written, and the first assignments that you get onboarded, right, to any project are generally bugs, right? So they will give you small bugs and you have to solve those bugs. They have to earn the confidence and trust of the team, and then you will start getting assigned more complex features. And that's the way it generally works out. Doesn't matter in whichever level you are joining in, this is exactly the workflow that really happens. So you solving bugs is a part of the onboarding process. Okay, so now previously when we used to get a bug, right, what we used to do was we used to go to the bug description. We used to understand like what exactly is going wrong. You have to get the context of the feature, you have to get the context of the code base a bit, we have to go to the logs, analyze them, right, and then we deep dive into the code base and we started playing around with the code base, and in this way we used to solve it, right? So there was a lot of manual trial and error that were involved, plus we had to go through a lot of things, right, which might be boring, right? Because as a software engineer you might be thinking that our job is only to code, right? But it's not always, because if you're given a bug, maybe you're just changing 1 or 2 lines of code just to solve that bug, but there are a lot of other things at play. I mean, I forgot about testing as well, right? After you make your changes, you have to ensure that you are testing it out, and you have to ensure that that bug doesn't happen ever again. So this was about when you get a bug, what do you do? Okay, so now if you want to understand the solution, how do you solve this bug, probably would go through similar bugs, how other developers have solved it, or you will probably search on Stack Overflow. Unfortunately, in any of the big techs that I worked, we were not allowed to use Stack Overflow. I mean, not allowed, but we were allowed, but we had our own Stack Overflow inbuilt, right? So that had it's pretty much like an in-house Stack Overflow for that particular company's code base. So now with the advent of AI, what we generally do is we obviously go to the bug description and some of the customer comments, but also the AI can make a nice summary. Okay, AI can make a nice summary of it. We have like internal mechanisms for that. I'm sure, like, do comment down below what do you guys exactly use in your day-to-day work to summarize the bugs and customer comments and whatever. I think for GitHub, when I was working open source last year, right, I used to use Claude Code. I used to give the GitHub issue and it would like generate a nice summary of that issue.
So before I get into the next part, a lot of you watching this video might be thinking that while all of this sounds great, where do I actually start learning this stuff properly? Because using AI tools casually is one thing, understanding how to work with them, machine learning, deep learning, generative AI, building real projects, that's a different level entirely. And that's honestly what separates people who use AI with people who builds with it. Since the time I have been putting a lot of content on AI in my recent YouTube videos, I've been getting a lot of DMs from people who are asking me for a structured learning path. So I'm going to mention Simplilearn's AI program over here. They have got programs in partnership with Microsoft, IITs, and other universities covering everything from prompt engineering to RAG to building with LLM frameworks like LangChain and Hugging Face. It's all online, you can do it alongside your job, and the focus is hands-on projects and labs, not just video lectures. And you will get a certificate on completion of this course which you can use in your resume and on LinkedIn for credibility. And Simplilearn Career Service will strengthen your resume and get career guidance from industry specialists. Attend mock interview sessions to help you ace the hard technical questions. So if you're meaning to upskill seriously in AI, go check their program. The link is in the description down below. Now let's continue with the video.
That is one thing that is really helpful. AI also helps to analyze the logs, right? Instead of going through the line by line of all the logs, AI really helps in analyzing the logs as well. So AI is very good with the summarization part and the summarization aspect, right? Also, let's say now you have to understand a new code base. AI is also very good with that, right? AI will help you to understand the code base. So this is one thing that I pointed out in one of my previous videos as well, where I used to say that when we were onboarding to a new code base, there were a lot of things which we couldn't make sense of, especially being a junior engineer. Okay, So now what we used to do is we used to depend on other teammates. We used to depend on people who had context, who were senior in their team, right, to help us or walk us through that, right? Now in the big tech, what happens is whenever you're taking help, right, you cannot just bug the senior engineer all the time. So you also have to sit through, scratch your head and need to understand a lot of things. And only if you are unable to do after like putting in all the efforts, then only you reach to the senior engineer, and you just cannot bombard him with all the questions. You have to be very specific about the questions, right? So there used to be a bit of anxiety when you were when you were part of such a huge code base. It's the first time, right? Now with the advent of AI, this process has been very simplified. Like I had worked in almost 3 or 4 new projects in the past 1.5 years, and I don't remember the last time I went to my senior asking him to explain a specific piece of code or as any specific technical thing, because the AI really helps me to understand those things. And obviously the AI has the knowledge of the code base, so it is very good in explaining you what's the flow, what's the stuff that is going around. And some of the AI tools, they are very good in generating flow diagrams as well. Okay, I'm not getting into the depth of the tools, otherwise again it will be a huge digression. But what I want to say is that AI helps with the summarization, plus it also helps in understanding the code base really well. Okay, so now when you have an understanding of the code base, you understand what issue the customer is facing, and it also helps you to analyze the logs as well, like where exactly things are going wrong. It will be easier for you to pinpoint the exact place or the exact line of the log which you should be mindful of to solve this bug, right? So I would say that AI has really helped that process of onboarding as well as solving bugs. But can it solve like a bug end to end? I think that's somewhere where it is lacking a bit right now. I won't say that it has 100% efficiency. Like if I just give a bug, for example, let's say I was using Claude Code for one of the open source projects, and if I give it a GitHub issue, it was able to solve most of them, but not all, right? Somewhere, and again, keeping in mind that we don't get to use Claude Code in our day-to-day projects because we are not allowed to. Lucky you guys if you can use Claude Code. But yeah, so coming back, what I want to say is that efficiency, I feel, needs to be better, can get better. Obviously it will improve with the due course of time, but there has to be human intervention to understand that what is going what AI is exactly trying to do, right? So yeah, that's about the onboarding on the bug solving process. So now I used Claude Code. This is the second part, right? I used Claude Code for an open source project that I was working on last year. Very briefly I worked with it. What I understood is that AI is very good in writing boilerplate code. It is very good in generating unit tests. Although in one of those projects, I remember that all the unit tests were written by AI, okay, like AI agents, right? And as a result, what happened was there were a lot of, do you call it AI slurps? I remember the term exactly. They didn't follow the best practices when they wrote unit tests. So it was written in using VI test, right? And it didn't follow a lot of best practices that I remember. For example, parameterized testing, they didn't follow that at all, and as a result the lines of code became huge, right? Yeah, it definitely helps in writing unit tests, but it's not like you just give it to write all the unit tests and it will generate for you. But having said that, once it has a structure, it is very good in writing boilerplate code that we used to write, right? AI is very good with that, and it does save a lot of time. Or maybe, as I said, if you want to refactor larger chunks first, you just give it a prompt and it will do it on your behalf. But whenever I felt that it required an actual understanding of your code base, right, to solve any critical problems, it kind of struggled. And also because of the fact that there are limited context, right? Because the context window is limited, you just cannot throw everything at it. Therefore, the lesser the context, the lesser the performance of the model. So that is also a very important thing to note. And also the sort of prompt engineering that you would be doing, right? Because you have to understand that you have to give the prompt with a consolidated context and exactly the context that the AI requires. Otherwise it will get confused and hallucinate, and it will take you to an entirely different direction. So all of these things are kind of challenging, because if you happen to land on the wrong side of the AI, right, it will simply waste your time. Because it has happened to me and a lot of my teammates that we had basically spent an entire day talking to the AI and the net result is 0, and then we are like, hey, we could have done this simple task on our own without using AI. And I'm very sure all of you have gone through this. If you have, please comment it down below. I would love to know the experience. But this is something also, that the prompt engineering part, the context part, but when you are not able to, as a user, right, when you're not able to feed this properly to the AI, it struggles and it definitely wastes your time, right? And obviously we are still learning. We are not prompt engineers, right? That's a separate skill altogether. So yeah, sometimes it gets a bit difficult, and sometimes I feel that, hey, I mean, I would have done this on my own. Why would I use AI for this? It just wasted my day. But one good thing about AI is now that also we have AI reviews. I think there's this one tool that I was using, Code Rabbit with VS Code extension. They're doing a pretty decent job with the code reviews. Do comment down below if you know other AI code reviewers as well. But it also does a decent job in reviewing your code, checking whether you're following proper naming conventions, or if you have a sample prompt ready where you just tell give a prompt, have a standalone prompt which says, hey, these are the best practices, these are the best naming conventions, these are the structure that we follow in a code base. It can just match according to that instead of you manually going to that code and following that checklist. That in that way AI is also very helpful. Okay, now talking about a third part, it is a design doc. When you create a design doc, does AI really help? So you have to understand a huge chunk of this engineering work in big tech is proprietary, and it's very context heavy, right? And if AI doesn't have the context, it will struggle. So it basically needs an approved internal setup. And I personally feel that AI is doing the job of an SD1 or a fresher really well, but when it comes to an SD2 or an SD3 on an architect level, none of the AI models has reached that stage. Yeah, surely it can help you with a lot of information, right? Especially if you're working with open source project, it will definitely come to your help. But somewhere down the line with the design part, I think you need to use your own intuition, all the experience that you've gathered so far to work on that particular project, especially on the particular design. So being an author of a couple of design docs in my company, but yeah, definitely AI has helped me, but to come up with the design, to come up with the approach, it has helped me to validate that approach and to help me understand the pros and cons of the approach at times. But to help me come up with the design doc on its own, I don't think it has done that yet, and it has struggled. So I would say to come up with a design like a high level architecture with where you're designing a particular feature, right, for users at scale, right? So I think that's where I think AI has not really helped me a lot. Again, it's a personal experience. If it has helped you, do let me know. And also, as I said, that since I work in big tech where a lot of things are proprietary and internal, right, and it doesn't have the outside world context to deal with that, so maybe that performance was not really optimal. So I would say when you're trying to design a particular feature, a system, I don't think AI is still up there, because designing is all about the architect, SD2, SD3 level, right? And I think I don't see AI performing to that level yet. I would be very honest. It's very good when it has directions, and it will simply do the job of an SD1 really well. So that's something to watch out for. At the end of the video almost, sorry, I said 5 points, but I actually spoke about 3. The next 2 points would be actually about where AI generally helps you or me, right? And where AI generally fails, right? So AI helps in explaining concepts quickly. Reading an unfamiliar code base, you paste a function and ask what it does. It is very good in writing regex. That's one thing which used to struggle a lot and used to take help of Stack Overflow. One of scripts or SQL, right? Things that are correct or wrong with no ambiguity. Drafting communications, right? For example, PR descriptions, comments, right? Some parts of the documentation, checking grammar and all those punctuations and all those things. Also, rubber duck debugging. I don't know whether you know about this rubber duck debugging or not, but this used to be a concept a couple of years back. I think still it is probably. At odd hours, no one is around to help you out. You can use AI as a peer programmer so that you don't feel bored and you feel that you have someone with you to look into this issue. Okay, now where AI fails you, anything requiring long code base context, which I already discussed about. Anything where the error is very subtle and domain specific, when it hallucinates because of the lack of context or maybe our inefficiency to give it a good prompt. And the worst part is where it's confidently wrong, and that is dangerous, especially for a fresher, for a junior engineer, or anyone who's not having the code base context. And if the AI is confidently saying, hey, this is exactly what it is and this is the way you should do it, this will work, it is basically gaslighting you, and that can prove out to be fatal. So now, almost at the end of the video, the real honest take about AI. Yes, we do use it a lot, but we check everything. We just cannot trust it blindly. It did make our work faster in certain things. Yeah, agreed, undeniably, but it didn't change a lot of other things at all. And lastly, the engineers who are scared of it and the engineers who think that it cannot do anything, right? Both are equally wrong, right? So, you have to treat everything somewhere in the middle, because that's where the truth lies. Having said that, I will put an end to this video. Do let me know down in comments your experience of using AI in day-to-day work so that we can learn together. And I will see you in some other video. Till then, stay safe and goodbye.